I'm Joe Roper. We're at Joe Roper Surfboard Repair. Time to fix a fin box. I'd say half the boards we get in the door have something to do with the fin boxes. We are going to prep it to put a new fin box in, and then we'll glass it. Right now we need to make the resin and the fiberglass that's going to go on top to patch it stick to the board, and the only way to do that is with 40 grit sandpaper to create a bond, so that otherwise you put it on here, the patch is going to fall right off.
And I'm trying to get what's not flat, and open up where the glass is not connected anymore, where it's delaminated. I'm trying to open that up so that the new glass will patch it smooth and flat. Kind of trying to make sure there's no shiny spots, because if there's a shiny spot, the glass won't stick.
So I found a little bottom ding right there and a little tail ding right here, so when you're in this area, it's easier to do it all at once rather than try to avoid a ding and then sand around that and hit that on the way and make it even worse. So now we will put a new box in, and it's a center fin, so it'll be making sure it's just straight up and down. Rather than these ones, we would be trying to angle them out to match this one, or we would find out what angle the shaper likes their fins at, and you cant the fin out to that degree. So this is a kind of Cabosil / Q-cell, just something to thicken up your resin to tack this future box back into here. So I'm going to paste the whole area, the whole cavity where the fin had come out of. And I did have to get a new box because the old box disappeared when I hit a rock. If you can retrieve a box, you can use the same one, but you got to set it a little bit higher because these have a bit of a tab to sand flat when you glass over it. So I'm just wedging this back into that same hole it was, the same cavity, trying to get as much out as possible from underneath it. And you're trying to get this back to the same kind of height, so to say, or placement as where it was, because when you sand it flat back to shape, it's going to be too high or too low. And if it's too low, you can't get down to it, and your fin will sit lower, and then you'll sand the outside of your box. When you sand it flat, will be too thin, and you'll sand to the foam. If it's on the side fins, you got to measure off the stringer so that it toes in the same way. On the center fin, we have the stringer lined up with here. So as long as it's pointed forward, front and back, you look at it down the board like this, and you're just making sure that it's straight up and down. This needs to go that way a touch. And you wait till that gets hard. Box is set, went off. Now we kind of got to fill the cavity around it, but first we got to tape off the box so we don't get any resin inside, because otherwise we're not going to get a fin in there ever again. Also tape off this edge here where we're going to be glassing over. There's also a ding right here and a little crack right here, so we're going to tape down around all that. This is a Q-cell Cabosil kind of a creation here where we're going to fill this cavity around. I try to avoid the box as much as I can at this step, just so that you don't get a ton of white Cabosil on top of your nice white box. So now I'm just keeping it level to the surface. This is a tongue depressor. You could use this, you could use a ruler, just anything that's kind of got a flat line to it. This on a tongue depressor is round, which is the same as the future box here, luckily. So that's that. I will clean the excess with some acetone. Put it on the tail here where it's exposed foam. On the road, if you're sanding by hand, I'll do 1 6 and a 4 again. And we're just trying to kind of get a little bit outside of the Cabosil area. So I'll just kind of cut something similar to the shape of the box, a little bigger. So this box has because it's a new box, they sell these with they come a little bit high right here. So you sand those flat when you go to finish the board, and then a 4 ounce to cover it all. And this is just to kind of let it fall better without pulling the rest of it down. Take a squeegee or some device of this nature, spread it all over. You want to pull that flat the best you can, especially over the box, because it is the bottom of your board and you don't want to have a big lumpy bottom. Tail ding will lap that down and around a little bit. And then a lot of times on a box, you'll get a little bit of bubbles around here. So I like to take a little resin after, kind of push the little bubbles out. Otherwise, when you stand that flat, those bubbles are gonna surface. You have little leaking holes into the mix there. We're gonna hot coat this now because I was laminating. Hot coat is sanding resin, it's just another name for it. Doesn't really matter how thick or thin, you're gonna sand it off anyways. So now to make sanding life easier, take a razor blade. It's actually gelled right now. It's the best time to trim is when the resin's just hard enough to not be sticky, but it's still soft enough to kind of cut. Once it gets hard enough to sand, it goes to the sanding room. All right, so this one is ready to be sanded. You'll see the lump in the future box where it sits high because it's a new box. If it was an old used box, you could take a razor blade and cut the squares to get your fin back in, and you could pull that piece of tape out, get it smooth around here. But being that it's high, I'll grind this flat, and then I'm gonna sand all this smooth, and it's ready to go.
So this is a pretty high grit. This is actually the same as we used to prep in the beginning. This is 40 grit. So I'll get that flat, and then we'll take that one and go from there. And this is gonna be 150 grit to kind of get the high stuff down and smooth it all out, because it is still lumpy. You get a 6 ounce, where we put the 6 ounce, it's higher than it is next to it. So we gotta smoothen that out, and blend it all together. So given that this board has a good amount of double concave in it, it'll kind of go low, high, low. You do gotta mind that, and you gotta roll your sanding along with the concaves of the board. The best way to get the flats on any board is going to be with the sanding block. Take that 320 from earlier, smoothing that out. Make sure your rail is shaped properly. That's the easiest thing about hand sanding, is you can really wrap your fingers around it and get to the shape that the board is and smooth it all out. Blow that off, and just like that, you have your fin.
So this fin box went pretty smooth. They can be a bit more work, and whether it takes chunks of foam out with it or whatever happens, the side fins are a bit more difficult to get the angle correct, and a lot of things can go wrong. So if you do have that technical issue, then bring it to Joe Roper's.